This was a targeted shooting. Take a look at all the bullet holes in this bedroom window. We counted at least 10 shots. Police say the man under arrest fired a flurry of shots through this window early yesterday morning, striking this pregnant mom and her unborn child. They later died. Miraculously, two of her other children who were sleeping beside her weren't hurt. That somebody, police say, is Devin Anthony. The 26-year-old arrested Monday night made his first court appearance. He's charged in the shooting deaths of 23-year-old Shakiya Pridgen.
3 days before she died, Shakiya Pridgen was laughing on a video call with family in 5 different states, picking a name for the son she hadn't met yet. They landed on Chiron. Gifts stacked in the corner, decorations still on the walls. Nobody believed that same room would become a crime scene within 72 hours. Shakiya was 23, 9 months pregnant. Her 1-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter were asleep beside her the night everything changed. She was due in 2 weeks. Just before 6 in the morning, someone walked up behind her apartment, stood outside her bedroom window, and fired. Not once, not a warning shot. At least 10 rounds tore through the glass into a room holding a pregnant woman and 2 toddlers. No panic, no spray and run. Whoever did this stood there long enough to empty a weapon into one specific window. Hold on to that detail. 2 questions drive this entire case. How did the shooter know exactly which window, which bed, which hour she'd be lying in it? And why was the man police now believe pulled that trigger even free to be standing there that morning? He'd already been accused of killing someone before. The children weren't hit. Not one bullet touched them. Shakiya wasn't as lucky. Neither was Chiron, the baby she was still carrying. You killed and took an innocent woman and an innocent baby, and there's no coming back from that. Her family said that in the rain outside the complex, hours after paramedics pronounced her at Grady Memorial Hospital, they weren't speculating. They already had a name in their mouths. Subscribe now, because the next detail changes how you see this entire case. Her mother lived in the same complex and heard the gunfire before she knew whose window it came from. What she did next, alone, before paramedics arrived, tells you exactly how fast this unraveled. The shots ended in seconds. What came after started with a mother running toward a sound she prayed wasn't her daughter's apartment. Police got the call at 5:15 a.m. By then, Vina Scott was already inside her daughter's apartment. She'd run toward the gunfire from her own unit, found Shakiya unresponsive with both grandchildren curled beside her, and started chest compressions herself before paramedics arrived. I wish I could turn back time, because if I heard the gunshots and knew it was my baby, I would have gotten up and ran faster. Paramedics rushed Shakiya to Grady Memorial. She didn't survive. Neither did Chiron. This wasn't a stray bullet tragedy. Investigators treated it as targeted from the first hour. Whoever fired didn't spray the building or hit multiple units. They aimed at one window and fired 10 to 11 rounds directly into it. That kind of accuracy doesn't come from the street. It comes from knowing exactly which apartment, which room, and what time. Here's the answer to our first question. Investigators believe the shooter had intimate knowledge of Shakiya's daily life. This wasn't random. Charges came fast. Malice murder. Feticide. The intentional killing of an unborn child, carrying a life sentence under Georgia law. Aggravated assault with intent to murder. Prosecutors treated Chiron as a second victim in his own right. Within hours, before any arrest, Shakiya's family stood outside the complex in the rain, telling reporters they already knew who did this. He knew where she was, he knew where her bed was. Sheriff Melody Maddox activated a joint operation with the U.S. Marshals almost immediately. Unusual urgency for a case investigators already believed they understood. Less than 24 hours later, they found their man in Riverdale, Georgia. If investigators connected the dots this fast, why didn't anyone see it coming beforehand? Drop your theory below. They had a name within hours. What they found in his file changed the entire shape of this story. How was Devin Anthony free to stand outside that window at all? 26 years old, and according to Shakiya's family, the father of the unborn son she was carrying, someone who likely knew exactly which room she slept in, and, investigators say, someone with a documented history of violence long before that morning. In 2021, a Fulton County grand jury indicted Anthony for murder in the shooting death of Ronald Barner. Not manslaughter, murder. That charge didn't stay murder for long. Anthony struck a plea deal under Georgia's First Offender Act. Murder became voluntary manslaughter. A judge sentenced him to 20 years, with only 11 months actually served, the rest suspended onto probation. 11 months. For a man originally indicted on murder, He violated that probation in late 2025 after failing a drug test and was sent back into custody. In February 2026, he was released again. 4 months later, Shakiya Pridgen and her unborn son were shot dead in her own bedroom. Lay the timeline out in order, and it stops looking like coincidence. 1. 2021, indicted for murder in Fulton County. 2. Plea deal reduces it to voluntary manslaughter. 3. 11 months served, rest suspended. 4. Late 2025, violates probation, returns to custody. 5. February 2026, released again. 6. June 2026, Shakiya and Kyren are dead. He shouldn't have never been let out. Her family said that not as a passing comment, but as the center of their grief. In their eyes, the system had already been warned once and let him go anyway. Georgia's First Offender Act exists to give people a path back after one mistake. Shakiya's family isn't arguing against second chances generally. They're arguing a murder indictment should never qualify for one. Should a murder indictment ever qualify for first offender status, no matter the final plea deal? Tell us where you stand. This family is already fighting to change that law. The paperwork explains how he ended up free. It doesn't explain what happened next, because Devin Anthony wasn't the only person this family had already buried. Anthony's arrest should have felt like closure. For this family, it felt like living through the same nightmare twice. He was booked into DeKalb County Jail without bond. Malice murder, feticide, aggravated assault with intent to murder. A magistrate judge didn't even have authority to set bail on charges this serious. It went straight to Superior Court. He's remained in custody, awaiting trial, as the case moves toward a grand jury. But here's the detail that turned grief into disbelief. Back in January, months before Shakiya died, this family stood beside another grave. Shakiya's cousin, Serenity Tate, had already been killed, and Charlotte Mecklenburg police confirmed her death came from domestic violence too. 2 cousins, 2 young women, both killed within the same year by men who once claimed to love them. We are living in dangerous times, and it's the people close to us that end up hurting us. If this is hitting you as hard as it's hitting us, subscribe before you keep watching. You'll want to be here for how this family fights back. Shakiya's father doesn't believe this was random. Whoever did this aimed through the window, took the time to let off 8 shots. You didn't bang bang and run, you sat there. The 2 surviving children are now raised by their grandmother, Vina. The 3-year-old may remember fragments. The 1-year-old won't remember any of it. He'll grow up on stories instead of memories. We were looking forward to meeting our grandson this week. We trusted him with her. He put on a whole show to make it seem like he was somebody who really was the perfect boyfriend. That performance, safety right up until it isn't, is the exact pattern advocates see over and over in domestic violence homicides. How many warning signs get missed because someone's playing a role nobody sees through in time? The performance is over. What's left is a family, 2 children, and a case that isn't finished yet. Devin Anthony remains in custody without bond tonight, awaiting trial, as the case heads toward a grand jury. No conviction yet. No final answer for how a murder indictment ever became 11 months served. The 2 children who survived that bedroom are growing up now with their grandmother, learning who their mother was through other people's memories instead of their own. Shakiya is buried with Kyren, her unborn son, wrapped in her arms, the family's final image of a due date that never arrived. This will not be the last time you hear from us. We will get justice for you, Shakiya and Kyren. That's not a resolution. That's a promise still being kept, month after month, as this family pushes publicly for changes to the First Offender Act, the same law that let Devin Anthony walk free after a murder indictment, 4 months before he allegedly killed again. So here's where this leaves you. A woman who did everything right, chose a name, planned a nursery, trusted the wrong person close to her family, and a system that had already been warned once and let him go anyway. The unanswered question isn't just about Devin Anthony anymore. It's about how many other cases look exactly like this one, sitting quietly in courthouse files right now, waiting for the next 4 months to run out. Do you think this case changes anything about how Georgia handles violent first offenses? Or does the system move on the way it always has? Tell us in the comments, because this family is watching, and public pressure is how laws like this actually change. If this case affected you the way it affected us, subscribe now, because we cover the cases the system moves past too quickly, and we're not moving past this one until there's real justice for Shakiya and Kyren.